Reggie here, your friendly neighborhood bodybuilder and comic book collector, and I want to welcome you to another one of my videos. In this video, I am sitting down with one of the main people at CGC that is responsible for their trading card division. And in this interview, I am given an opportunity to ask a host of questions as to why CGC decided to move into this area, what they hope to accomplish, how they're going to differentiate themselves from the competition, and I even touch on some of the more controversial aspects of this move. And the great thing about this video is that you literally get to hear directly from them. You hear answers directly from the people that have been involved from the very beginning of this decision. In many ways, I am hopeful that you're going to enjoy this video. And if you do, I certainly want to encourage you, if you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, to go ahead and do so. And if you have subscribed, I definitely want to encourage you to hit the thumbs up button and leave a comment behind so we can mix it up in the comment section. All right, so I want to thank you for giving me a little bit of your time to chat with me today about trading cards. Before we get going, I'm curious if you can give us your name and a little bit of background on who you are and what you do here at CGC.
Yeah, sure. My name is Matthew Quinn, and I am the lead person with trading cards. And my background was mostly in rare currency, and the rare currency game was something I've been part of for 15 years. I've established my career there, working for big auction houses, also running my own company with rare currency, and then started coming on with CGC about a year and a half ago.
Very nice. And so in this last year and a half, the way that I heard that, you weren't always with trading cards because this is a relatively new division. So were you with paper currency before and then switched over?
Correct, yes. I was originally hired to be the head grader for PMG, the paper money side of things. And then throughout my entire career with paper money, I've always dealt with trading cards as well. It's been like a small passion of mine that I've just coddled since 6th grade, going through collections and buying cards and just staying involved in the market. So when I came on here, they had the idea of grading trading cards, but they were kind of kicking it down the road, and I grabbed that because I knew the market. I knew the collectors and dealers need something better, more attention to detail, and someone that really cares about these cards as much as they do to help certify them.
There you go. So let's talk a little bit about that, right? Because to the outside world, this is a new thing for CGC, right? And you just kind of alluded to it's something that's been out there for a little while, kicking it down the road, kind of noodling it. That's how I phrase it.
I like it.
What is it that prompted CGC to go in the direction of trading cards?
Sure, it's just they saw the passion I had for the trading card hobby, especially Magic the Gathering, and I just know the stuff. I mean, I've been dealing with it a long time. I had some resources already, and then I just put myself fully in the world, started talking with all the top-end collectors, dealers, everyone, getting their feedback, what their insights are, what the other companies are doing wrong, what we can do better than them, and it's just something that's going to be exciting for the community, the hobby. We want to push the hobby forward, and use our big part, our big prowess as a company to help this industry.
So what I just heard you say is that you're the reason why CGC is doing Magic the Gathering and Pokemon. Because people are confused. People are like, why did they start with those two? And it sounds like it's a little bit of your influence because that's maybe where you started collecting?
Yeah, with Magic the Gathering for sure, but I would say those two trading cards games, Pokemon and Magic the Gathering have the highest dollar amount cards, value-wise known, and then as far as the collector bases are the largest as well, Pokemon being absolutely huge. And then Magic has been around in 93, Pokemon 96 in Japan, 99 here in the United States, and when I had started the whole thing and getting everything going, we wanted someone who knew Pokemon inside and out. That's why we brought on Charlie Herlocker, who's an outside consultant for us, and he's well respected in the Pokemon world. So we want to make sure we have the right face for the right game. We want to give them both the detail they deserve.
I think it's interesting that what you just mentioned is that CGC is actually bringing in outside consultants to bolster what you guys are trying to do. You're not trying to develop all of that expertise in-house per se,
right?
But you are tapping tapping into what I'm assuming to be well-respected, well-known members of the trading card community.
Oh, yeah.
Is that fair to
Completely accurate, yeah. I mean, it's what we do with other collectibles, with paper money and coins alike. There's people out there that are just complete experts in their certain little niches of the field, and we want to get their opinions. We want to see what they're thinking and what the hobby as a whole is thinking, and apply that to what we do here.
I'm a marketer, and there was also something interesting you said there a moment ago about going to some of the dealers and people in the hobby and finding out what's working and what's not working, where the gaps and opportunities are. Because as a marketer, that's essentially what I do. Is I try to find where is there space for me to be able to compete and to kind of get my product in there. And it sounds like that's essentially what you guys have done.
100%. There's so many little gaps, with the other companies that certify these collectibles, and the biggest thing is like some oddities, error cards, certain varieties and variants that people are super passionate about, but the other companies just won't recognize. And, we want to put the the thought and the expertise from other people into this to make sure that we treat them right and get everything correct for them.
Love it. And one of the things again that I thought was interesting is that when I first heard you guys were going into trading cards, I heard Pokemon and Magic the Gathering. And I speculated, like I was doing a live show, and I speculated that was where you guys were going to stick your toe in the water.
Yeah.
So as to then work your way to the larger, like, sports cards.
Of course.
And then I want to say it was like the next day or the day after that there was the announcement that you guys were hiring people that were sports cards experts to bring them inside. And it was just that moment where I was like, I actually got one right.
Yes.
But it's like, was that all part of the plan? I mean, I'm guessing that you guys have a plan of we're going to do a couple of things well first, and then we're going to grow into other areas. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's fair to say. I mean, like I said, the Pokemon and Magic community, I think, are one of the most underappreciated as far as grading is concerned. They don't get enough from the 2 services they have, maybe 3 services. So we're going to just come in there and just put the full attention to detail in there and just show how much better we can be than the competition. And that, in turn, will hopefully get some attention from people of the sports cards world and see how much we really care and we're passionate about doing things, in a completely collector-oriented way, and then being also, completely impartial and just making sure these things are, attributed correctly, graded correctly, and backed by our guarantees.
One of the other things that I was wondering about, and I think a lot of my subscribers have asked about, is are you guys going to do other types of gaming cards? Right? And I don't know, I'm not a gaming card kind of guy.
Okay, fair.
But a lot of people have been like, well, what about this and what about that? And I'm like, I don't know, but I'm asking you now, is there room for CGC to add these other gaming cards as well?
Oh, most certainly. That's something that we had thought from day one. We wanted to pick 2 things that we could get the expertise behind and just really nail in the head. And then in the background, we'll be compiling databases, getting opinions and, all kinds of things about other cards like Yu-Gi-Oh! And other, like, even doing, comic cards. There's so many different things you could do with, the card world, and that's definitely on the horizon.
Any chance I can get my garbage pail kids graded?
I mean, there's, I'm never going to say no, but yeah, we'll see what happens soon enough.
I have a lot of garbage pail kids from my childhood. I mean, unfortunately, I think I took the sticker off the back and kind of fixed them. So, but I think that there are people out there that will potentially want to know about garbage pail kids. So you might get some questions along that line.
Of course.
As I was reading some of the public information that you guys have released, right, whether it be the press release or some of the posts that were put on the websites. One of the things that was alluded to was the use of technology to be able to properly grade cards. Again, this is not my area, right? I'm a comic guy.
Sure.
So I'm curious, can you talk a little bit more about the technology that you all will leverage in order to grade the cards? And is that standard, or is this, again, you all filling a gap in the market by using technology?
Yeah, there's so many different ways that we're going to use technology. There's actually 3 main principles that we're going to use. A lot of it's going to have to do with counterfeit detection, because a lot of cards can be counterfeited. You have Magic the Gathering, you have rebacked cards, which are really hard to identify if you're not sure what you're looking for. Straight up counterfeit cards. And also the biggest thing is, assisting the centering measurements. We're going to be digitally assisting the centering measurements for these cards. So, I mean, what's better than a computer? The computer isn't live. So we're going to use that data to factor into the grade. And then there's also other advanced machinery that can really do some wonderful things to detect counterfeits, to detect irregularities, anything that's been restored or inked or anything like that. So, just the amount of technology we're going to put into our grading process is going to be unparalleled, throughout it's going to be great.
I mean, I honestly didn't take it to the point of counterfeit detection.
Sure.
But I think that makes sense,
right?
Yeah. Because anytime money is involved in something, then there is a possibility that there could be some counterfeit.
Of course.
So it sounds like you guys are well positioned to be able to identify some of that stuff so as to maintain the integrity of what you're trying to do.
Oh, of course. And what the good thing is, we're going to create databases about these things that we find as we're getting more information for every card we certify. Every card will be imaged automatically once we get it, and you'll be able to see that image on our website through the cert lookup tool. And as we're making more advanced databases with our other equipment, soon we'll compile that data and actually release it and let people know, like, here's some things to look out for. Maybe not all the way, just so we can keep some stuff tight to the chest and keep it out of the counterfeiter's hands, but to make the general collectors aware of what to look for.
That's awesome, and that's actually one of the questions I was about to ask
Sure.
you is whether any of that information will be publicly disclosed, and it sounds like some of it will.
Yeah.
But it's more to make the collectors more knowledgeable about the hobby and what to look out for so as to prevent them from being taken advantage of.
Oh yeah, and that's a big problem right now. The other competition, the other people that grade cards right now, they've graded counterfeit cards, and sometimes they have a financial guarantee and sometimes they don't, and people get burned. And the biggest thing, like you were saying about the information presented to collectors, is huge. The other companies don't put much information out there. We plan on doing weekly articles about all kinds of cool things. We're gonna do all kinds of great, awesome, interesting things to the community that will help and benefit the hobby. And then eventually, when the show circuit runs up again, we'll be at the shows, we'll be at the events, doing things and participating in these events and spreading our passion for the hobby with others.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And talk to me a little bit about the centering, right?
Sure.
So centering is one of the grading criteria that is used.
Of course.
And I'm guessing the more accurate that centering measurement can be taken, then that influences the assurance that is a perfectly centered card, if you will, and it is what it is. Can you actually show us an example there? I know you have a stack of cards.
So I actually have two good examples right here. So you have two of these Shivan Dragons. They look almost the same to the naked eye, but one's an alpha version and one's a beta version. And the biggest difference is the centering on these two. You can tell noticeably right away is the alpha version, which is this one here, is pretty poorly centered, and that actually just happens naturally. This card you can hardly ever get nicely centered. It's always going to be to the left like you see here, whereas the beta one usually comes pretty decently centered. So we're going to take things like that into account when we're grading them, because with the alpha print run, there's only 1,100 of these ever made.
Wow.
That's it.
Wow.
And the spoilage rate, so figure maybe 800 left, and then a lot of them are all beat. So when they printed them, it took maybe 6 minutes to print that entire run of 1,100 cards. So the centering is just straight through the whole run. They're all going to look the same. The only way you're going to get one that's nicely centered if the rest of the cards in the whole sheet are bad.
And you said did you say the alpha and the beta?
Correct.
So is that like a first run and then a reprint?
More or less. They're actually intended to be the same run.
Okay.
But what had happened when they printed the alpha version, they clipped these corners, and then when they printed the beta version, they tried to do the same, but the radiuses are significantly different.
Got it.
So their intention was to have them to be the same run, indistinguishable, and it was supposed to be the limited edition. So they're going to be black bordered, pretty. Only time they ever do it, but evidently the corners are different, so now they're known as the alpha version and the beta version. And even Wizards of the Coast who produced them kind of, give them that name as well. So they actually say alpha and beta when originally intended they were just supposed to be the same thing.
Check that out.
Yeah.
Check that
so,
out. Again,
yeah.
I don't know any of that, but
Yeah.
I had to translate it to comic book terms.
Oh, yeah. 1,100, that's not much,
Yeah. And I mean, it also sounds like with the database that you guys are doing, you're going to be disclosing inventory levels as well, right? So, or census data.
Oh, of course.
To give people some idea of how many are out there. And I think, again, that's one of the beneficial things about the comic book side is that we have some idea of how rare or not rare a book is based upon the census data that you guys provide.
Oh, of course, yeah. That's like the most important thing is having a population report. Basically, it shows you every card we've graded for that particular variety and every grade that it is. And that's going to be the kind of information that collectors use as a tool, saying, okay, there's only 3 of them in 10, there's only 7 of them in 9.5, and that really indicates value because a lot of these cards you just can't get a 10 in because the centering is really, really bad, or or, let's say they have print defects from the factory. But both those things considered, we're going to be a little bit easier than the other companies with these print defects that are known throughout the whole run. I mean, like, why would you beat up a card too much if that's just the way it comes?
And I think that in my mind, that's one of the good things about what CGC does with comics.
Sure.
Right? Because if a comic has a bindery tear, and like 90% of the run has a bindery tear, then I feel like there should be some allowances.
A little grievance,
for that type of course. A little bit of forgiveness.
Yeah.
Grandfather me in just a little. So
that's
it
great,
sounds like you guys are going to do something similar on the card side as well.
Yes.
To take into account these known printer defects
that
we all see all the time.
Yeah, I mean, there's a great example right here. This card is called a Mock Sapphire. It's one of the most iconic Magic cards there are. 5 figures all day long in this grade. And the card has several of these print defects that are just on the entire run. And I mean, it's just, good luck finding one with that one because it doesn't exist.
So the highest grade that you can potentially get on a card is a 10, just
right.
like comics.
Yes.
And does it come down in half-grade increments?
That is absolutely correct, yep. Okay. So we're going to use the standard system basically throughout, cards is 1 through 10. PSA does a little differently. They use basically, steps of 1, whole numbers, with a couple half-grades sprinkled in. And then Beckett just goes from 10 all the way to a half grade, actually, with half grades all the way in between.
Okay, okay, that's helpful.
Yeah.
So let's talk about this case.
Yeah, sure.
Can you talk to me a little bit about the features and the benefits of this case? Because, I mean, it looks like a miniature slab. I mean, it's actually pretty cool. It looks
they're
like
nice.
a small version of a comic book slab. But talk to me about the features of this thing, because I don't know that people have really seen these things up close.
Sure. Yeah, so the case is, like you said, it's a miniaturized version of our comic book case made out of the same material. Very nice, very clear. The optics are just stunning. And then for security features, we have a watermark inside the label. We also have this holographic top here. I'm not sure if you can see it bouncing around.
You can see it.
Yeah, definitely. And then also we're using, a regular welded case, so sonic welded case. So this thing's not going anywhere. No inner sleeve. We think that the inner sleeve was just not something that would work, and I don't think it's beneficial to the card as long as the well is sized correctly. So we made this well with trading cards in mind that are made on the metric system, so we made sure that the parameters were perfect for them, not using a sports card holder or anything like that or dimensions for a sports card, but for a gaming card. So they fit great. The rattle is just about non-existent like you would see in some other competition holders. And then also in the back we have a beautiful hologram. And it's actually not a sticker, which some people said, oh, is that a sticker? No, it's actually baked onto the plastic.
Check that.
Yeah, so it's not going anywhere. It's such a nice way. The tamper-evident holder, if you were to try to crack this out, you're going to see all kinds of damage along the edge of the card case. So, it's just a stunning holder. I really love it.
And it also looks like they were stackable as well.
Oh, beautiful,
like
yeah.
CGC slabs.
Of course, yeah. I mean, when you're at a show and you want to get a ton of cards graded, you don't want them flying around. So,
that is
cool. They stack right up. Yeah.
You guys built this case from the ground up, I'm guessing, right?
Yeah, 4 trading cards. Something that we wanted to do and to just push the hobby forward, like for Magic and Pokemon. It's something that they don't have. They don't have a company that's just tailored specifically to trading cards. And that's where we feel like we can make a big step forward.
And as you guys go to the sports cards, will that be an iteration of this case?
Sure.
That is sized for sports cards, I'm guessing?
Yeah, with sports cards, the biggest difference between gaming cards is they have square corners.
Okay.
So with that in mind, the case will be tailored a little bit differently for sports cards because of the square corners. But yeah, we're going to use a lot of the good positive things we found with this case and put it into that case as well. So, it's going to be fun when we get into sports cards. There's going to be a lot of cool things we'll do differently that will really separate us too as well.
Very nice. One of the complaints, and I told you we were going to talk about some of that.
Of course, that's fine.
But one of the complaints that I've heard from people is that they feel like the label is a little too large.
Sure.
They feel like the label takes away from the beauty of the card.
Yeah, sure.
How would you respond to people that make those type of statements?
So yeah, the biggest problem I see with the other labels out there, they're small, they are, and ours is a little bit bigger than PSA's taller wise. The PSA is actually longer, but they abbreviate things. When it comes to details of these cards, when you start to get into different variants and different, whether it's foil, hollow, reverse, all kinds of different variants of these cards, you should see some of these labels when they try to fit information on them. They're just you literally have to have a decoder to figure out what's going on. Whereas with our label, we'll have all that information just right there for the collector. So someone new to the hobby who doesn't know, that's a reverse holo, shiny, first edition, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
There it is.
So that's clearly one of the major benefits,
of course,
right, is that the larger label allows you to put more detail. And that's one of the things people always say that they want. Is more detail. Right?
Of course.
And that's actually one of the questions I have for one of the comic book graders is about that. So
sure.
I'm glad that you actually said that there was a thought and a rationale behind the increased size of the label.
Yes.
And it probably goes back to what you alluded to earlier in talking with dealers and talking with the community about what's working and what's not working. My guess is that that's one of the things that you've heard.
For sure.
What you need a decoder ring to figure out what this label says.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the abbreviation is infuriating sometimes, and especially when you get into errors, cards with errors and things like that. We'll have the word error right on the holder, and on the back we'll describe what the error type is, whether it's obstruction, miscut, crimped, inverted back, all these fun different errors that just get no benefit from grading right now, but we're going to change that.
Love it. That is awesome. So one of the questions that I've heard from people is that they feel like CGC's move into grading cards or trading cards, sports cards. They feel like in some way, shape, or form it's going to devalue cards.
Sure. I know that's I've heard that.
I don't quite get that argument.
Coming from the collectible background myself, dealing with rare currency and coins and things, having more opportunities for good, third-party grading is nothing but a benefit to the hobby. It's not going to make their other stuff decrease. The card is the card. Yep. It's never going to change. What plastic wraps that card is irrelevant, basically. If the card is a nice card, it'll bring the money.
But that's a question that I've heard, or the argument that I've heard from people, and I honestly don't get it.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you've heard it as well.
Yeah,
I
have.
Struggle with it.
Yeah, sure.
And I thought it was because I'm not a trading card guy.
Right.
Maybe I didn't appreciate it.
Yeah.
But people are saying that there are too many companies out there doing this right now. I think people have identified like 7 different companies that are out there. And in my head, my thought was that, again, CGC feels like they have something to add to the industry, which is why they're moving in this direction. And in my head, I don't see you moving into this direction to actually hurt what you're trying to do.
If anything, we're trying to make this hobby bigger and more popular.
Exactly.
I think it's going to make everything, more valuable in the long run. Having another company that can do it, right, and get the cards grading, and attributions perfect is going to do nothing but benefit the hobby.
There you go. So one of the last questions that I have for you is, as you are engaging people out there, and you have folks that are watching this video, you have folks that are considering sending their trading cards into CGC.
Sure.
What would you say to them in terms of why they should choose CGC versus some of the other companies that are out there? What is the advantage to the collector or to the individual?
Okay, so the biggest advantage is going to be that we are actually passionate about trading cards and Magic the Gathering cards. So we're going to take that card and give it every proper attribute it could possibly get. Like I was mentioning with the errors, even test prints, things of that nature. And then we're also going to be pushing the hobby forward for them. So we'll be doing cool articles. So maybe potentially some of the cards they submit, if they're valuable, could be featured in a cool article if they're okay with it. We're going to build registries. So say if someone collects by just dragons, you could have, any version of a Shivan dragon that you want to have, So there's so many different variants that you could collecting themes. So we want to just make sure people have the opportunity to, put collecting themes into place. Like, here's all the same card, but different sets. So, I want to make they call them global collections. People will collect every card, the same art, but, from different languages, different editions. They printed this card over 21 times in different sets. So there's a lot of different themes and ways to collect that we want to make more mainstream. That people do behind the scenes, but they don't have a place to display that collection. We want to give them that in our registries. And say, okay, here's so-and-so's collection of Shivan dragons. It's the top pop one there is, and give awards and stuff like that. And go to events and do cool things, with the community, and maybe even, sponsor a team that plays the game too at some point. So we have all kinds of great ideas that to really just help the hobby and help people that are involved and care about it, because people that collect this stuff are they're obsessed like I am with the game too. So it's fun.
The passion is evident, my
yeah,
friend.
Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it.
So I definitely appreciate you taking the time to chat. Thank you for showing me these cases and talking with me a little bit. I want to get a closer look at these.
Yeah, of course.
I haven't touched these
yeah,
yet.
of course.
So I definitely want to do that. But again, I want to thank you for taking the time to chat.
My pleasure, Reggie.